All right, guys, welcome to today's conversation. I'm just going to go through, I have like 5 questions I'm going to go through, spend a couple minutes on each one, and then we'll kind of see how it goes. So, just a little highlight here. We have, can you do too much intensity with your workouts? Trap bar versus regular bar for deadlifts. Are dumbbells enough for fitness? What is the purpose of zone 2? And the last one here, does lifting stunt your growth, specifically for kids? Okay, but we'll wrap around, we'll get all 5. But the first one, can you do too much intensity with your workouts? And the answer to this is absolutely. You can definitely do too much intensity. I think the first place you have to always start when it comes to a question like this is, what are your goals? It's as simple as that. And once you define your goals, you're then going to be able to determine how your workouts are, your training program. And when we have specific goals, not every day can be hitting it as hard as possible. We want to set ourselves up to have the hard days be hard, but the in-between days are, moderate or work on technique. And let me give you an example. If our goal is to get as strong as possible, okay, I think we can all agree that we're not just going to lift to a max every single day, right? We're going to set a timeline. Maybe it's 3 months out, for example. And over the course of those 3 months, we're going to progressively build heavier weights. And within those 3 months, we're going to strategically have days where they're a little bit easier, days that are a little bit tougher, weeks that are a little bit easier, weeks that are a little bit tougher, right? And then ultimately, over the course of those 3 months, we're building up and setting ourselves up for, that heavy lift at the end. Let's take cardio, for example, because I think this often gets overlooked. A lot of times people will be like, oh, you can't lift heavy every day. And then yet they're going every day and they're hitting it as hard as possible in their conditioning. We want to make sure that at most, maybe 1 or 2 days a week is when we're really putting the pedal to the metal on the conditioning, right? So we might do 5 conditioning workouts a week. 1 or 2 of them are at like 100%. The other ones, we're working at like a moderate intensity. That's where like the zone 2 comes in. But we have specific goals for those other workouts that maybe not push us to that 100%, but are setting ourselves up to do that on the days that we want, right? So I think, we have to look at, the other thing you can look at here is, are you making progress? Okay, if you're hammering yourself into the ground every day and you're not making progress, then maybe you're doing too much intensity, right? So that's about all I have for that one. The next one is an interesting one, is the trap bar versus regular bar for deadlifts. And I'm assuming, which one's better. And the first thing is, neither is inherently better. Again, it comes down to what your goals are, it comes down to the specific person, what their limitations may be. But assuming we're taking a person that has no limitations, and let's say they just want to get as strong as they can, okay? I'm always a fan of starting with the conventional deadlift, if they can, right? I think this one's a little bit more difficult technique-wise because that weight's out in front of you, right? So it's going to be harder to maintain the back for someone who's new. But the long-term effects of learning that, I think, will benefit you in getting stronger. Now, the trap bar. Why do people like the trap bar? It's very easy. It's more friendly on the back. So if we have back issues, it's a little friendlier. You're going to be able to lift more weight, right? But it's very easy to pick up. So I like to use the trap bar as more of an accessory movement, right? And then kind of the deadlift is my main movement that I'll track in terms of pulse. But I think we want to utilize both. They're going to both allow us to get stronger. I would always lean towards doing the conventional deadlift as more of like my primary form of deadlifting. Okay. But The trap bar is a great exercise to help you get stronger, especially maybe you're looking for a little break from the conventional deadlift, or you just want to change it up. I think it's a cool way to change it up. As I said, it's going to allow you to lift a little bit more weight. It's a little bit different, a little bit more quad focused than the deadlift, which is glutes and hamstrings. I think there are definitely benefits to both. And anybody tells you you can't conventional deadlift, you should only trap bar deadlift, they're really missing out, okay? Maybe there's specific cases where conventional deadlift is not a great choice, but for most people, they can learn how to conventional deadlift. If they reduce the weight, work on proper technique, build up over time, have a coach watching you so that if the load gets inappropriate, they're going to tell you to stop or reduce the weight. But both are great options. This next question I really like. Are dumbbells enough for fitness? I'm a huge fan of dumbbells. I use it a lot in my training for conditioning. Not because I don't like the barbell, but I already do a lot of barbell movements with the snatch, clean and jerk, squat, pulls. So I don't necessarily need more barbell for my conditioning, and I find the dumbbells are a little bit more friendly on my body after all the lifting, so I tend to use those a lot for myself. Now, I think they're also great options if you are on vacation or are just not able to get to a gym for whatever reason. They're very easy to come up with a workout. Honestly, it requires less warm-up than the barbell too, in my opinion. So it's something that you can hit quick and go. We bring in like the stability factor with especially overhead of the dumbbell versus where the barbell you won't have as much. So that's an added benefit as well. It gives that weak side work as well. So we've all got a weak leg, weak arm compared to the other, and that allows us to kind of get in some extra unilateral work when we might not. But that being said, in the long-term picture, okay, I don't think we could only do dumbbells. Is it bad? No. But I think big picture, we want to incorporate a wide variety of movements, wide variety of apparatus. So barbell, sandbags, dumbbells, kettlebells, all of these are going to have our benefit our fitness. And not only that, you're going to be much more successful when you have a wide variety of implements to work with, right? If you're only doing dumbbells, it's going to get boring after a while. And the barbell has a really good stimulus that the dumbbell can't offer. Same thing with like a sandbag or a kettlebell. I think they all offer a little bit different stimulus, and if you're missing out on one, I think your overall fitness is going to suffer. But there is definitely, again, it comes down to what your goals are. If you're just looking for general fitness, there's no reason why for a month you can't only use dumbbells and get really, really fit, especially if it's something you haven't used a lot of. But I could say the same thing for a barbell. If you haven't used a lot of it and you use it for a month, your fitness is going to improve. Same thing for a sandbag, right? I think sandbag is even one that most people don't use because they just don't have access to it. But if you were to only use a sandbag for a month, I bet your fitness would improve, and I bet you find those workouts really, really difficult. So I won't say dumbbells are enough, but are they good enough? I think so. Question 4 here. What is the purpose of Zone 2? So I think Zone 2 often gets misrepresented, and people saying that people who are proponents of Zone 2 think it's better than high intensity. And it's not. What it is great at, and this kind of wraps into question number 1, do you do too much intensity, is allowing you to work out and get in some volume, but not be as taxing on the body. All right, when we have specific goals, we want to structure our training so that we factor in the ability to recover. especially if we're doing or trying to improve multiple different components. So let's say running and lifting. You can't just be doing heavy lifts and running as hard as you can 6 days a week. You're not going to be able to recover from that. So what zone 2 allows you to do is work at a much lower intensity. You're going to be getting in much more volume, so you can spend more time on those days, but it's not going to impact our recovery. So every time we do a workout, there is a cost to how long it takes us to recover. If you do a heavy single on a deadlift, that's going to have a high cost on recovery. If you do high effort sprints, okay, for running, that's going to have a high cost on recovery. So if we're trying to improve multiple components, endurance is something that we can do at a lower intensity and still make progress and not impact our recovery for the other days, which may be lifting, maybe CrossFit, maybe, whatever else you're doing. The other benefit to zone 2, and this one is specifically for people who are newer to working out or may never have worked out before in their life, is it's kind of a way to build a base and introduce yourself to, working out. Going as hard as possible when you haven't worked out in potentially years or potentially your whole life may not be the smartest thing to do right away. And so zone 2 is going to allow you to start to slowly build that intensity over time while also improving your aerobic capacity, which again will allow you to do a higher intensity on those hard workouts. I think this is a great thing for beginners to do, honestly, most days, right? So regardless of whether you're doing a Metcon or just riding the rower or the bike or running or even walking, keeping your effort in zone 2 initially is going to allow you to gradually build into the end goal, which is to put some intensity into your workouts. It's also great for the days that you're not feeling particularly well. It allows you to get in some work that's going to be valuable to you and actually help you recover. Oftentimes when I'm super sore and I come in and I just do some zone 2 work, 30 minutes, by the end of it, I actually feel really good. Got some blood flow through the whole body and my body feels a lot better and I feel better the next day too. For me, the zone 2 that I like the best, rower, the bike, even running. Running is going to be a little higher impact and you really want to make sure you're keeping it in zone 2 and not running too hard. Usually this is going to make it, it's going to feel really easy when you're doing this and you're going to think I need to go faster. That's probably when you're in the right intensity. All right. And then last question here. Does lifting stunt your growth? This is one of my favorites. Usually this is talked about with kids, like should kids lift weights? And it's as simple as this. Lifting does not stunt your growth. What kids need to be focused on is learning the movements and having fun. Okay? This is what's going to set them up to have success long term. So regardless of what age we are, if we have great technique, that's going to put us in the position to lift the heaviest possible weight. If we're having fun, that's going to keep us consistent long term. The third thing, and this is the least important, is the weight on the bar. As long as they're using good technique, they can lift heavier weight. It's as simple as that. And that's why it's important to have kids under the eye of a coach. That way that the coach can keep track of the weights they lifted, progress them slowly over time, and hold them back when it is necessary. This is especially important with kids going through puberty. They're constantly growing. Their bodies are constantly changing. And so 1 week they might have great technique. A month later, their technique is off because their body's grown and their coordination is off. And so they kind of have to take some time to rebuild the technique and the movement. But it is completely safe. And in fact, I think it's really important that kids start lifting weights as young as possible. Not only for, sports benefits if that's their goal, because if they start young, learn the technique, by the time they get into the later teens, they're really going to be able to get strong. But two, just for their general health purposes long term. I'm a big believer in the easiest way to get in shape is to never get out of shape. And so if we can start youth lifting weights and working out at a young age, it's just going to be what they do. And so they'll be able to continue throughout their whole life and hopefully never have a time where they get out of shape, they put on a bunch of weight, because they just have that habit from a very young age. But, I think the most important part with youth is limit them, not because it's unsafe, but you want them to have fun and want more of it versus giving them too much and having them kind of, not enjoy it anymore and then not want to do it. So I always limit the kids to 1, 2, maybe 3 days a week. But the most important part for youth and lifting is making sure they enjoy it and they have fun. Because if that happens, they'll keep doing it consistently for a long period of time, and that's when they'll get they'll be the strongest, right? But most important part there is just get a coach who's going to watch you, teach you how to do the movements correctly, and push you when it's appropriate, but hold you back when you're not ready, right? Awesome. Those are some good questions for today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. And if you have any specific questions you want me to answer, you can comment below, and we'll see you next time.